the first being emotional intelligence, trying to, and I can go into that. I have an analogy that I kind of try and explain my views on emotional intelligence. Um, I think awareness of life is such a huge kind of portion for me. Remaining aware of your surroundings and healthy relationships is so important. Um, as well as having passion in your life, having purpose.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Reflections on Living Well podcast, where we explore perspectives on the good life in the 21st century. I am your host, Broderick. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Reflections on Living Well podcast. Today, our guest is Bryan Kachel. Bryan is a tattoo artist, father, a husband, and I'm going to let Bryan introduce himself. Audience, you remember I decided not to read the bios anymore. Let me know if that is working. I feel better about it because I don't have to stumble all over myself trying to read a bio. But Bryan, I'm excited to have you here, and yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience, and then we can get this conversation flowing after that.
Oh man, I'm so honored to be here, and yeah, I'm really honored to get to have a conversation with you. So a little bit about me. I've been a tattoo artist in Seattle for uh, almost 25 years. Um, yeah, there's how to define yourself. It's all the ways, you know. I have two beautiful kids that I'm the proud father of. I have a wonderful wife who I'm immensely proud of and inspired by. My my family is all scientists, so being raised by scientists that were also very spiritual with an interesting upbringing. Um, yeah, I own with my wife a shop in North Seattle called Moonlight Tattoo that I work with beautiful, wonderful, talented artists there. So it's all the ways that we have relationships that kind of define us. But yeah, that's at least a quick summing up.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Well, I'm excited to explore with you this theme of the good life, living well,
Mm-hmm.
and what makes life worth living.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an extremely important conversation to have, extremely important questions to explore as we take a look at our lives and think about what wakes us up in the morning, what keeps us going. These questions are, I think, quite powerful, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a pleasure to speak with people from different walks of life, and I'm excited to. I haven't spoke to a tattoo artist, and so
Ah.
this is going to be interesting. We've had a
Oh,
conversation prior to
yeah.
this, and it was
Mm-hmm.
lovely. And the audience, be prepared for a nice dose of wisdom from Bryan. And
Oh man, I appreciate
yeah.
it.
So let's start from the beginning here with the question:
Yeah.
What does living well mean? What is a good life?
Mm.
What makes life worth living? Exploring what comes up for you when I pose those questions, I guess.
Oh man, I have been obsessing about this question since
Hmm.
we kind of found the date that we were going to do this, and I feel like what I've kind of largely come to is that it's such a big question and it means so many different things. You've had so many kind of esteemed guests on here that have found different ways to express it to them. And you and I could talk about this all day, and no part of it would we really come to a conclusion about this is it. It's distilled down to this. But I wanted to at least express a few of the tools that I keep in mind and try and live by. Um, the first being emotional intelligence, trying to, and I can go into that. I have an analogy that I kind of try and explain my views on emotional intelligence. Um, I think awareness of of life is such a huge kind of portion for me. Remaining aware of your surroundings and healthy relationships is so important. Um, as well as having passion in your life, having purpose. And I feel like I have many more tools that I think of, but I feel like that's a good starting point.
Yeah, that's very interesting, man. We'll unpack some of this because I think those are important. You know, you started off with emotional intelligence, and I'm curious why you start off with emotional intelligence. Or is it just what came to mind, or is there why is that so important?
So I had I speak in analogies so often, so I hope your audience kind of learns the way that I learn. I try and paint kind of pictures with my words just because I think visually.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a friend years ago who was driving through the Australian outback by himself. He just had a rented Jeep, and he was out in the middle of the desert, and he hadn't seen anybody for hundreds of miles, and he ended up seeing just stopping in the middle of the road because there was a sunset in front of him that was so overwhelmingly beautiful. So he just stopped and got out, and he was sitting on the top of this Jeep and just drinking in this beauty in front of him. And then behind him, he heard thunder rumbling, and he turned around, and there was the most ominous thunderstorm you've ever seen. And he took a picture of it because it was so striking that it was just splitting the sky in half. That half of it was just black, ominous, just lightning crackling, intense, like fear. And in front of him was the most beautiful, just horizon deep into the sky, just reds and pinks and oranges. And it was absolutely stunning. And the reason I bring this up in comparing it to emotional intelligence is when you look at that scene, which one is true? Is the beauty, is that the whole scene? Is that your truth? That everything is beautiful? Or do you turn around and all you can see is this intense fear and awfulness and potential destruction? Is that true? Is it true that it's good on the left and bad on the right, or bad on the left and good on the right? All of those could be true depending on which way you're pivoting. And I feel like emotional intelligence, to me in my life, is the ability to pivot. It's to say, this looks bleak in front of me, but what if I pivoted? Is there anything that I have to be grateful for? Is there anybody in my life that is a gift in my life? Do I have my health? Do I have my physical capabilities? Do I have good people? All those things, that's the sunset right in front of you. It's beautiful. And it's not always that clear, obviously. Sometimes it's very bleak, and there's just a little bit of a glow on the horizon, and you'd be kind of foolish to just say that it's a good day when there's just a tiny bit of warmth out there and it's all really dark. But most of the time I've found it's the opposite. Most of the time, the whole sky is beautiful around you, but we fixate on that one dark cloud. And I feel like the idea of living the good life is knowing how to pivot, how to see the beauty around you and not get fixated on the little bit of bleakness that might be there. So that's why I chose that one first.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love how you um, speak about this and from that emotional intelligence perspective. Because I think that there's something to that. We being able to sit with our feelings. What feelings come up for us in life about the various situations that we find ourselves in?
Absolutely.
And a lot of that's going to be dependent on, you know, like you say, where we pivot from or the perspective that we're taking in the moment, about the experiences that we are having. There are multiple ways of looking at an experience. And how have we been trained or conditioned to see our experiences? You know, like you say, so a lot of times we emphasize the negative And yeah, of course, people have heard me say this on this podcast quite often that we do have a negativity bias for evolutionary reasons,
For sure.
and I get that. But we also have this capacity to choose,
Mm-hmm.
and and speaking about this from a perspective of emotional intelligence, that we can develop our capacity to choose differently. And when we do have that emotional intelligence, that capacity to be with our feelings, to have um, an awareness, a sensitivity to our emotional landscape and how we emotionally relate to our experiences, is going to enhance our capacity to emphasize the positive versus emphasizing the negative. I really like how you initiated this with emotional intelligence, or speaking about it from the perspective of emotional intelligence.
Yeah, so much of the time, I feel like in trying to convey to my son and my daughter when she was a little bit younger too, but my son's just at this age where I'm really trying to kind of show him that most of the time he is not a victim of his life. He has power. He has, and I've been really stuck on this analogy. I hope it's not trite to anybody because it means a lot to me, which is the idea that responsibility is the ability to respond. That when you accept responsibility over whatever you can, you now have the ability to respond to that situation. And if you say, oh, I could have done this differently, or how could I have behaved in a way that was more in line with my values or my virtues, it then gives you the ability to do that next time and to help others do it. And most of the time, we're not entirely victims. There's, of course, situations where people are victimized, and that's terrible. But most of the time, we have at least some power to make our lives better, to make the lives of those around us better. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's important, brother. We can take that victim narrative. Again, we can emphasize the negative. We can overwhelmingly emphasize all of the problems that we have. And I think giving attention to that definitely has value. I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
We survived. Our ancestors survived because they gave attention to the possibility of
Yeah.
negative consequences to their experiences. And also, you know, honestly assessing their situation is like, there's danger here. We're not
Yeah.
saying just be blind to
Not at all.
the danger that's around us, or uh, the experiences that victimize us. I'm not saying that. I don't think you're saying that either.
Not at all.
To just disregard that. However, we have more power than we think we do. I mean, evolutionarily, we also have this capacity to have what they call meta consciousness, where we can step back, have awareness of our experience. We can look at our thinking. We can look at our emotions, our emotional experiences from a quote unquote distance. We have the capacity to be aware. We also have this capacity to reason. That means that we can reflect on what we are aware of, or what we are aware of. We do have that capacity. And when we
Yeah.
take advantage of that capacity, we can see that we have agency. We don't have 100% agency. No, but we
Sure.
do have agency. We have a capacity to choose.
Exactly.
And we can do something to transform our situations to the best of our abilities. We do have limitations.
Yeah.
But if all we emphasize are limitations, we deny ourselves the opportunity to fully live a good life, to fully live well. Because for me, life ain't worth living if I don't have no damn power at all. Like, what's the
Yeah.
point? It's like,
Dude. And it's just the desire to improve yourself.
right?
Like when you make choices, it's saying like, oh, I've been here before. I'd like to make a better choice this time. It's continuing to try to prune and evolve so that we can get to the places we want to get to with the people we want to be with. Um, Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's all beautiful. I loved how you phrased that. Meta intelligences. That's great.
Yeah, I'm just feeding off you. This is what I love about these types of conversation, because I think
Mm.
I don't know what the hell I'm going to say. Every day is different,
Yeah,
and in the interactions, we in the conversation, I'm reflecting in real time. That's why I'm stumbling through my words, because I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to make sense out of it out loud.
of course.
And I think that's what we're modeling through these kinds of conversations. And yeah, it's how we word things slightly different. And like this is how you're in, what I glean from what you're saying is in encouraging us to empower ourselves, to see our power,
Yeah.
and to recognize that we have the capacity to use that power that we have
Mhm.
to transform our lives, to develop our capacities,
Yep.
to choose a better course in our lives based on our experiences. And that requires that metacognition, that requires that self awareness, that capacity to look at our experience, take that bird's eye view of our experience. And another part of this is being willing to learn.
Yeah.
You said you grew up around a household of scientists, and
Yeah.
at the foundation of science, a lot of people couch science and from a materialistic perspective, or
Mm.
from the perspective, I guess you can say, a physicalist perspective, that the world and reality is just physical,
Hmm.
and science is the exploration of that physical world. But I'm like, well, science. What are you doing when you're performing science? You're making observations. That means you need to take a bird's eye view. You need to take a quote unquote objective view
Yeah.
to the best of your ability of the situation. You collect data, you analyze that data, and you
Yeah.
make guesses based on the data that you collected.
Hmm.
You're going to use that information to support the next choices that you make in your life. So you're using it to make predictions about what's going to happen in the future. You're not always going to be right, but you keep observing, you
Yeah.
keep making assessments, you keep analyzing the data that you get from your observations of your experience, and then you make changes. You make adaptive changes to your decision making. Ultimately, that's all we're doing in the scientific process. So what you're saying is quite scientific,
Mm.
in that, hey, I'm going to look at my experience. I'm going to empower myself, or recognize that I do have this power, this capacity
Mm.
to make choices. Now, of course, folks, within boundaries of the situation that we find ourselves in. Of course, we have limitations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't, because I keep saying that, because I feel like sometimes when we're saying the things that we're saying, there may be this pushback of like, oh, you're making it sound easy, and not everybody has the capacity to choose in that way. Not everybody has access to that. I'm like, yeah, we all have different degrees of access.
Of course.
Of course, but
And I feel like that's why it comes back to it's your perception
exactly.
that we're both talking about. It's you have 100% capacity over your perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard thing. And we're all raised very differently. And many of us have lots to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have the power of our own choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. And that's a thing that it's an equalizing thing
Mm-hmm.
that I really love, that we get to see each other's humanity in the ways in which we're equal. And that's a way that we're all equal.
Mm-hmm. And so, granted, folks, I get it. We have not only just we have social limitations based on our familial history, of the history of
Mm-hmm.
the society and culture we live in. The we have biological limitations, our genetic limitations. We have in the instruction manual for each one of us is different. We all have different capacities, so we have those are boundaries. I get it. We're bounded by the time and in human history that we find ourselves.
Of course, yeah.
So, like you say, I can focus on that all day long and talk about how,
Yeah.
oh, I can't get through this, or I just emphasize that so much where it's so overwhelming, where I'm like, well, hell, I can't do anything
Mm-hmm.
because I'm so limited by the world that I find myself in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the perspective that you're talking about is, oh, okay, that's there. We acknowledge all of that, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something else that's here too that's quite beautiful about being a human being.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you grew up. You say you grew up around scientists, and I grew up in a slightly different situation in the
Mm-hmm.
Southeast, with poor folks. I think, when you grow up poor, you don't know it.
Of course, yeah.
Poor country folks, a lot of people in my sphere of influence, or people who had influence on me,
Mm-hmm.
um, were not well educated. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people dropped out of school for the reasons that they had to. Um, and so I could focus on all of these limitations. Man, I didn't read anything growing
Mm-hmm.
up at all. I had a slight challenge with literature, with words and
Yeah.
speaking growing up. Um, I had that limitations. I could have said, you know what? I can't speak that well. I can't write that well. I've never read anything. My vocabulary is horrible. You know what? I'm just going to just stay here and just wallow in the misery of my poor literary capacity or linguistic capacity. I could
Yeah.
have done that, but I was like, no, I have something else though. That's
Absolutely.
glaring. That's easy to see. People may look at me, and when I'm talking, even when I went to school, I spoke straight up Southern small farm town Ebonics, man,
You,
and it was great. It's a great language.
Mhm.
But when you're going to school and you're in a certain environment, some people don't understand that language.
Well,
And me speaking that way, some people are like, man, is this cat an idiot? Or my vocabulary was so small. Not only did I speak the way, but my vocabulary was so small. I could have just said, you know what? I can't. I'm gonna quit school. I can't do this because I'm
of course.
limited. And for whatever, maybe it's my nervous system that has me limited, and maybe it's the social conditions and that has me limited. You know what? I'm just gonna focus my attention on that and just
Mm.
wallow in that. But I was like, no, there was something else that I had this gift and for thinking abstractly. I think because I was good at math. I did well in math and science, um, just naturally. I mean, not because I was doing all the homework. It's just something that just my way my brain operates and works is that
Yeah.
way. And I'm a slower processor in doing that, not a fast processor either. And so, could I have just said, you know what, I'm not a fast processor, so I'm going to stay at home? I'm like,
Mm.
no, I can choose. I can take advantage of what I have. And
Mm.
then I can try to overcome those other limitations to the best of my ability, because that's what
Absolutely.
makes life for me. That's what makes life worth living. That I have that capacity to overcome the various limitations that I have to an extent, or I can maximize my capacities within the limitations that I find myself in.
Yep.
No,
Yeah, and all of our limitations become strengths in different perspectives.
exactly.
You
I
know,
love it. Yes.
I, I mean, I love everything that you're saying. I feel like I, oh man, I want to get off track in so many ways, dude. This is
Oh,
the
it's all
beauty of this kind
good.
of conversation. That I got sober when I was real young. I got sober when I was 15, which kind of lets you know some of what my childhood ended up being. But the beauty of being in AA and NA meetings when I was really young was that I saw that the lowest places that people go become the currency to be able to help others get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
The worst things that have happened to us enable us to help people that have been through those dark places. I I don't know about you. I have a hard time listening to somebody that's had an easy, just kind of even grass life, never had a challenge. If they're telling me how to get past something, I kind of am not. I'm not going to believe it. That's not a good forged tool to get through difficult things.
Mm-hmm.
If you see a tree that's just straight up and it's grown perfectly and even and it's never felt the wind blow on it, it's never had a branch break off. There's a beauty to that, but it's not as beautiful as a gnarly tree that's been through a lot, that has gone through a whole life. It looks appealing to us because it has value in what it's experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about having to overcome, things from your past, yeah, absolutely. And that's what gives you the ability to help others get over things. They might not
Mm-hmm.
be the same things, but it is that language of having gotten past difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
That's valuable.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think, when you said, by the way, in this kind of conversation, and this, getting off track is all good.
Ah,
It's no, I don't know if you can, because I think it's exploratory and creative and what
it is.
comes
Yeah.
up. And yeah, like this. I mean, I wasn't expecting to talk about this like this, but I'm thinking, yeah, how do we value this? And for me, that is a good life, is maximizing my capacities within the limitations that I have.
Yeah.
And life is challenging. It is hard. And I think when we face those challenges, we do have a capacity to help others along
Mm-hmm.
the way, based on our challenges. I think, why I emphasize education so much. Probably why I'm doing this podcast is directly related to my childhood experiences and
Mm-hmm.
the challenges that I've gone through, and the limitations that I found myself in. And when I went off to school, it just blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And be you educate yourself through an institution or not, I think there's value in going to an institution, but that's another conversation. There's a lot of value in
Mm-hmm.
actually going to an institution, not
Yeah.
just to learn the material, but to learn about yourself around a bunch of kids your same
Absolutely.
age, thousands of them too. Where it's like, what are we doing? Doing foolishness, but through
Mm-hmm.
that foolishness, you learn so much about yourself. Uh,
Absolutely.
at any rate, I think our challenges prepare us to be of service to others.
Mm-hmm.
That's one way of wording what you said. And
Yep.
when I, yeah, my emphasis on education and cultivating yourself and learning and developing yourself is directly related to my experience
Mm-hmm.
and the challenges that I've gone through. And I know what it's like. There are different degrees of ignorance. I'm still ignorant, but I know what it's like to have a certain level of not knowing. Man, I didn't know much of anything. And
Mm-hmm.
since I have had that experience of not knowing to that degree, I still don't know a lot, but to not know to that degree about the world that I live in, the
Mm-hmm.
history, the society, how the society functions, I see the value in getting to know that, having some kind of social intelligence, having emotional intelligence, because I know what it's like
Mm-hmm.
not to have it.
Of course. Yeah.
And the problems, the challenges, unnecessary challenges, the unnecessary suffering that I experienced based on that
Mm-hmm.
ignorance, that lack of awareness of the world that I live in, how it works, its history, and how it operates. Yeah, I was in what do you call it? I was handicapped. I just there was
Yeah.
very this my ceiling was very low.
Mm-hmm.
There was very little that I could do. Well, I could do things, but there was very little that I could actualize on based on my experience, based on my awareness, based on my knowledge.
And when your ceiling is low, your dreams are low.
Oh yeah,
So
my
when you're able to kind of break through that and say like, oh no, I get to dream bigger than this.
yeah, and for me, my dream, seriously, this
Yeah.
is even in 11th grade, 10th, 11th grade, I was still like, yeah, I'll go and work at the mill
Mm-hmm.
because there's a mill not very far from where I lived. And a lot of people went and worked at the mill at that time. Oh, it was
Mm-hmm.
good money, $10 an hour. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I guess I always had this like stability nature in me. Like I'm gonna go and I work at the mill. I'm gonna get
Mm-hmm.
married and have kids and be stable, take care of my kids, and
Yeah.
maybe be a football coach and all of that those are my dreams. And there's nothing wrong with those dreams at all.
At all. Yeah.
And if I would have chose to do that, that's been fine. That would have been fine. But when I began to expand my awareness, or when I had conversations with guidance counselors or teachers, they exposed my mind
Mm.
to a possibility that extended beyond what I saw. They pulled me out of my little spot. I look at it as here's an analogy I use where say is a building with different levels on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm on the ground level, and my teachers, the guidance counselors, they just kind of, hey, let me take you up to the second floor and just take a look and see what's possible.
Mm.
And then, of course, I went back to the first level, but I saw what was possible, and they
Mm-hmm.
were encouraged, just like, hey, there are all these possibilities out here for you if you take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, interesting. I had to be open to, I had to have a certain level of trust based on their experience because they saw something in me. They saw a capacity. I had to trust them and trust that the view that they have is a little bit more expansive than me, even though I couldn't see it. They're talking to me about college, my senior year. And I'm like, I've never been on a college campus. I'm like, yeah, I'll go and play football. That's my way out. Um, but they pulled me out of it and they showed me what was possible. Only for a moment. Of course, you got to go back. You got to, develop your capacity to be up on the second floor.
Of
But
course.
I had to believe them. I had to trust them in order for me to take the risk of, say, going to school, even though it was hard. It was different. I almost quit because it was so shocking culturally.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm like, that's it. That's the process. The process of when you go through something, when you have those challenges, you can help people along the way. You can help
Mm-hmm.
them see when you've overcome your challenges. And I think it's a part of our responsibility to do that, what those teachers and guidance counselors did for me. I'm saying all this, I'm just relating it to what you just
Yep.
said and
No.
about helping others.
I, that goes into another thing that I keep kind of forefront in my mind when talking about kind of tools to living a good life, which is kind of having your purpose. And
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting kind of hearing you discuss yours because mine is definitely through art and kind of it started out as art, I should say, and it's evolved in so many different ways. But I kind of see purpose as the path to enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all climbing up this mountain, and we have a million different paths around the mountain. And helping people and getting people education that might not have access to it or even thought of it as a possibility is a beautiful purpose. And obviously you have a million different purposes of your own. I, in kind of climbing my own mountain of art, realized that the art that I do for people has such an ability to change their life in how I apply it.
Mm-hmm.
If I give them art with my whole heart and try and connect with them while I'm doing it and give it my absolute best, they then have a connection to it every time they see it.
Mm-hmm.
And they remember this beautiful experience that we shared. And it becomes a 50-50 thing of part of it was the purpose that they asked for the art. And the other part becomes the experience of having gotten it. And they get to carry that with them. So it evolves as you kind of go up the mountain. And something that I've thought many times about is so many people feel like they've reached where they're supposed to be. And that is a sad thought to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, like, I don't know, hiking around in the Northwest, there's always that, the parking lot at the base of the mountain. And every once in a while you get to a vantage point and you can see that parking lot is way down the mountain. And you're like, man, I've come so far. And there's a feeling of, I could just stop right here.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to remember to turn around. It's beautiful to appreciate how far you've come. and to really give yourself the comeuppance of, I've worked hard, I've become this new version of myself, I've evolved into this. But you got to remember to turn back around and see that there's endless mountain up ahead of you. You can
Yes.
go further, you can be better, and you can keep on evolving. There's a beautiful analogy in Japanese tattooing. It's a story that came from China through Korea and kind of into Japan about the koi spawns up the river. And there's this one river, I'm told, that when koi spawn all the way up into the mountains, they'll get to this big, beautiful pool of water. And then there's a waterfall that just goes straight up from there. Imagine, 50 feet. That this thing, it's insurmountable. But if the koi continues to try and try with their long lifespan to get to the top of this waterfall, and if they try for 100 years and they finally make it to the top, they become a dragon and fly off into the sky. The analogy, society is the waterfall. It's pushing you back. It's going to push against your dreams, not out of any maliciousness. It's going to push against you because that's what happens. You're going to get distracted. There's life to be lived. And it's going to tell you about your responsibilities that have nothing to do with your dreams. But if you keep pursuing them, you become different. You change in the process of attempting to reach your dreams. You become a different and better version of yourself once you reach these goals. So continuing to strive through difficulty is how you gain that.
Man, my brother, that was so beautiful. I love that. I
Thank you.
That's just beautiful. I like that analogy too. I like that. The koi going up the river, up the mountain.
Oh, it's one of
And
my favorites. That's absolutely
yeah,
one of my favorites.
that's just awesome. You said something subtly that when you first started, when you talked about purpose and the value of purpose, and purpose is the path to enlightenment. I agree, man. And I
Mm-hmm.
think one thing that you said that's subtle that I really appreciate is that there is no one purpose. We have purposes upon purposes upon purposes. I may have a purpose. I may talk about my purpose as an educator, but
Sure.
within the purpose of it being an educator, there's so many other different purposes
Mm-hmm.
associated with that. And so
Yeah.
there, and what does it mean to be an educator? For example, and there's so far to go. And I say this quite often that I'll be learning and growing to the day I die
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Because
it's
that's a life worth living.
yeah,
Could you
that's it.
imagine? Could you imagine having a purpose that you could master in one lifetime? What a waste of time.
I know, I
No,
know.
if you could master it, if you could get to the top, then it probably wasn't a worthwhile purpose. You could
Mm-mm.
probably have pushed yourself further and figured out the ways that this thing that you're doing could make the world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've often kind of described my own spirituality as trying to be the best version of myself that I can be. And it distills real simple, but if I'm not helping others to be their best, then am I really being, is that the best version of myself I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And
Mm-hmm.
something that I always need to remember in the idea of like, you're never going to get to the end. And that's a beautiful thing. Is years ago, I pictured my ideal self as if I'm standing in one corner of the map, my ideal self is up in the other. And there's all kinds of trials and tribulations and effort that it's going to take for me to become that version of myself that I've always wanted to be. Does the version that's up in that upper corner, do they not also have a map of their own?
Exactly.
They're seeing further than I can see.
Exactly.
I've come further than I ever thought I would be able to, and I still have a map in front of me of all the possibilities, all the choices I get to make to hopefully make my life and the life of the people around me much better.
Mm-hmm.
And to continue to grow and evolve and to help others to do the same. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're never going to reach the destination, And hopefully we enjoy the process, because that's something that gets lost in the sauce too.
Yep.
Is, yeah, keep trying, but also really, and I mean, I'm not trying to keep track of my little list, but just kind of in going back to awareness, like that was something that only came up because you had asked me to do this podcast. As I was really thinking about it, that one of the tools that kind of everybody mentions in how to live a good life is to be present in the moment. And I that's obviously beautiful and noble, and everybody tells you this, kind of no matter what mystic tradition you're looking into, is kind of the be here now, the Ram Dass, like distilled into that quote. But I've never heard anybody really give you tools. They say meditate. Okay. But the tool that I kind of realized in preparing for this podcast was that awareness is my key. That if I'm paying attention to what's going on here and now, I'm not waiting to speak. I'm not dreaming of the future. I'm not regretting the past or congratulating myself for past achievements. I'm here. I'm now. I'm sitting with a new friend. I'm drinking delicious tea in my home that I'm lucky enough to have. And it's all these things like, man, when I'm in the moment, there are no problems, or if they are, they're very brief. And it's only when I concern myself with other things that it really gets convoluted and I start feeling lost and the ocean is too big. But here and now, listening to the bird song outside, seeing that it's a fall day, but it's gorgeous outside right now. Like making sure to appreciate the here and now. Oh man, dude. The other morning, so I have my 16-year-old daughter, and she's a lovely individual. And we went on she'll ask me every once in a while to go on a motorcycle ride. And we go early because my wife hates that we ride on motorcycles. So we try and do it before she gets up. And anyway, we both hopped on the motorcycle, and it was like 7 a.m. And as we're taking off, I go down the hill, and man, the sunrise was just gorgeous. It was gorgeous. Just the richest, brightest reds and purples you've ever seen. And just the Cascades were just silhouetted behind it, or in front of it rather. And my teenage daughter's just holding on tight to me. Just this excuse to hug and be close. Dude, tears in my eyes. It was just so gorgeous. And I started laughing with happiness, just experiencing this moment fully. Just that be aware of the here and now. Like, that's where all the joy is. Oh, man. Dude, I could keep going. I have so many little stories and experiences that illustrate this and why it feels so important to me. Oh, man. I had one a couple of weeks ago where I was out at a friend's cabin, and I wake up way early because I'm the dad of the group, right? So I wake up stupid early, and I went for a walk through the woods, and I'm just enjoying it and kind of going back to the finding the imperfections in the trees around me and seeing how that makes them interesting. The imperfection and the things in our own life that have happened to us are what actually like make us beautiful and unique. But as I was kind of heading back, I saw the sun was just cutting through the fog. It had just gotten past the treetops, and it's just cutting in at a 45-degree angle, and it was stunning. It was just absolutely beautiful. And kind of in that moment, you just feel like, oh man, like it feels like I didn't know I was cold until I experienced the sun hit me, and it just warmed my soul. And once I was in the sun fully, I was like, oh man, I wonder what the forest looks like Like I've been seeing it from the darkness, and then I stepped into the light. What does it look like from the light's perspective? And I turned around, and it looked like nothing special at all. It looked like a sunny day in the woods. And what I realized in that was that the people in our lives, including us, never get to experience our absence. You don't get to experience that my life is better because of you, because you only know me with you.
Mm-hmm.
The people that bring joy into our lives only experience us joyful with them. So remembering to acknowledge and appreciate and to tell those people the joy that they bring to us.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much beauty in that, and not letting it pass unnoticed. How gorgeous people can be in our lives, and to give ourselves the grace to know that we might be that for other people is really important too. Yeah.
Oh man, such wisdom.
Oh, thank you, my friend.
So many wise words and what you said there, and
Mm.
oh man, like when you were saying earlier, there's so many ways to go in a conversation. I'm like, oh, these things that all of that brings up for me, and
Mm.
yeah, I'm gonna try to not sum it all up, but try to like connect these things and this idea of awareness.
Yeah.
And when we do shine a light of awareness on our experiences, it brings us to the present moment. It brings presence when we are attending. I have this intention to be sensitive to what is transpiring right now.
Mm-hmm.
That there's so much there. There's this so much to see, so much to witness when we're
Mm-hmm.
really present, when we're attending to the moment of our
Mm-hmm.
situation. And when we are speaking about our purpose, our life work,
Mm-hmm.
and the many facets of that, and how we can evolve and develop our capacities, how we there's this infinite room for growth. I do like the analogy of the mountain.
Dude, I think about it every day. Yeah.
Yeah, because like when I lived up in Seattle, I would backpack a lot and I would hike a lot. So I get it. You see this beauty once you start in the parking lot and you start to hike up
Mm-hmm.
this mountain and you get up there and you see such beauty from the expanse, from the viewpoint,
Mm-hmm.
and you can sit there and you're like, oh, this is so great, or you can keep going and you
Mm-hmm.
keep going and it gets greater. But as we were going up the mountain, we're still attending, really being present. Our aim is to further develop, to further evolve, to
Mm-hmm.
grow further, to see with a little bit more from a perspective, a more expansive perspective as we go up.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we're still present. We're very aware and sensitive to the process that's unfolding. And as we're in this process that's unfolding, the challenges, the fatigue, the various injuries that life gives us,
Yeah. Yeah. The roots and
and
the rocks in the
the
path.
roots and rocks in the path. Sometimes the weather is not perfect. It's not often, especially up there. And so when we allow ourselves to really be present, to be in the moment, in the process, that's what makes it so beautiful. That's a good life. And we're in this process of development. We're in our purpose. We're really present to what is transpiring. And then we can see with a little more clarity. And as we go up the mountain, we can see a lot more possibilities that's available to us in our awareness. And with that, we have a greater capacity to serve others. We see the value in serving others. We see the value that in based on our experience. I see the difference from 1,000 feet or 500 feet to 2,000 feet to 3,000 feet. I see the difference. Now, when I go back to the parking lot, I get to share this with others. I get to share this perspective, this view. I get to share the journey, the process, in my own presence, because that
Mm.
process is transformative.
That's exactly kind of going back to the dragon analogy of like,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you aren't the same person coming back down the mountain as you were going up it. You're a
No.
changed person every time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you get to be a guide to people. You get to show them the pitfalls and tell them where the roots and the rocks are up the path. You can help them to get up there faster and potentially less injured.
Mm-hmm.
And oh man, the idea of being able to lift people up on your shoulders, so to speak, to be able to help them to reach those further heights. And I don't know, I mentioned it to you, the idea that it's not always a beautiful sunny day on the mountain, you know? Like we don't get to choose kind of what the weather is going to be or what time of day. Sometimes it is black and stormy and you can't see 2 inches in front of your face.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to be a helping hand to potentially somebody that's further down the mountain and to help them get up where you are. You can show them the beautiful ways to get where you are and hopefully boost them ahead of you. And don't forget to ask the people that are further up the mountain to help you out because people are eager to help, at least the not anybody that would be worthy of asking for help
Right.
could hopefully enjoy that because yeah, we all like there's no self-servingness in purpose. I'm still fulfilling my purpose in all the ways that I've chosen to. But anybody that gets weird or doesn't want to help, their purpose is not the same as mine, and that's okay. They can do their thing. They
Mm-hmm.
might be living a beautiful life in a different way. Yeah. Oh man, there's so much.
It's so much. I think you're subtly saying that the way I'm going to interpret it, and the way I guess it's the way I see it, is that we're responsible for each other. I
Yes.
have a responsibility with my awareness to support human evolution, the
Yes.
development of human consciousness. If I am developing myself, there comes some responsibility with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't just live for myself. There are people that I'm constantly seeking out to support me, to help me evolve and develop myself. Hey, hell, having these conversations with people such as yourself, and it inspires me to think and to transcend my current thinking, and to encourage me to grow, to learn from your perspective, from the wisdom, the knowledge that you've gained from your life experiences. And I get to do that with all kinds of people, say through this podcast, through the various works of literature, the various people that I find that are interesting, because those folks are supporting my growth, and I am inevitably in supporting the growth of others and how I show up in the world. Now, I am an educator, but you don't have to be an educator to do that. You can just be a person in the world, or you're a parent. You don't have to be an educator. You don't have to be a parent, but being a person in the world, and the way I show up in the world, the way we show up in the world, as exemplars of a way of being in the world, is a way of supporting and helping others. Because
Mm-hmm.
when I show up in the world in a particular way, there is someone out there interested in something some aspect of my life that has transpired, or something that I've learned in my experiences that may be of use to them.
Yeah.
Am I ready to be there for them? Am I humble enough to ask for support and help from others who've gone further along the
Mm-hmm.
path than I? And I think that I love when you said earlier, there's no space where we just arrive.
Mm-hmm.
We arrive at certain places where we can enjoy that, like when we're hiking up the mountain, and sometimes you stop and you're like, man, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
But then we can like, oh, there's further to go. And then like we can keep going, we can keep growing. And
Mm-hmm.
as we do that, I feel in my worldview that even if I'm not in contact with others,
Mm-hmm.
I am supporting human development and evolution as I evolve in development, using the analogy of going up the mountain,
Of course. Yeah.
because I am an expression of spirit. I am
Yeah.
an expression of consciousness itself. Each
Yes.
one of us is an expression of spirit. So any one of us that does something that enhances awareness, we're inevitably going to impact the entire field of consciousness, all of us in some capacity. We increase the likelihood of others going up that mountain. Because think about it, when you go and hiking, somebody created that trail. Somebody came
Yeah.
before you.
Yeah.
You may never know them, you may never come across them, but
Yeah.
somebody went up there before you
Yeah. And made
and
it possible for you.
yeah, made it possible. And it's a lot easier for you to do it
Mhm.
because someone else has gone before you. And I think that there's so much in what you're saying,
Mm.
and I love to use that word responsibility. Being
Mm.
responsible for each other is an important part of, I would say, accepting the good
Mm.
life. The embracing a life well lived is taking responsibility to continue to grow and evolve ourselves and
Mm.
be of service to others in the process.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, and even from a selfish perspective, if you want if you want to learn where you are on the mountain, try and bring somebody up.
Mm,
It'll teach you real quick where you actually are.
right?
And it'll show you, you might be further, you might not be, but it'll show you what you have of value
Mm-hmm.
and the universality of your tools. Because if your tools only work for one, they're not as valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's trying to chip away and make them tools that everybody can use to help get where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I every time I've tried to teach somebody the humility and the, I don't know, the beauty of realizing what I actually have to teach.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's much more than I thought, and sometimes it is absolutely nothing. I'm in the dark. I don't know how to express what I know about a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, there's so much about, oh dude, I could wander all over the place with this conversation. It's beautiful. Um, but there's so much to in kind of creativity where you want to make sure that, I always think about kind of my mind as like many radios playing at once. And the more I can kind of quiet through repetition or understanding what I'm trying to do, the more it kind of turns the volume down on some of the radios and allows that very quiet one that's playing kind of behind me, that just whispers little, oh, why don't you try it that way? Oh, what if you did it a little bit different? It allows room for that. So the more I find that quiet in my own mind, the more I get to really experience the beauty of creativity to the fullest. And I love trying to share that with people and trying to, find those ways of just twisting things a little bit and just helping them have different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it sounds like you do the exact same thing, like through this podcast for sure. But just in life, it's you're trying to find ways to share with people kind of those universal tools of this is how you can live a good life.
Mm-hmm.
It is within your reach.
Mm-hmm.
And it's subtle things. It's subtle
Mm-hmm.
things to turn down the volumes on some of those other knobs and just say, this is the one that I want to listen to. I'm going to make this choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cultivating that awareness,
Mm-hmm.
as you spoke of earlier,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
cultivating that awareness and increasing our sensitivity to what's present, and it opens us up to the various possibilities for creativity, for exploration. You said something else earlier too. I want to make sure I say this before we sign off. That finding that delicate balance with humility
Mm.
and also acknowledging what you do know.
Yeah.
Because I think, if I'll be kidding, and I think I made a mistake with this. I think I thought I was the same old kid
Hmm.
that grew up in rural South Carolina, even though I've gotten a PhD in chemical engineering and another
Mhm.
doctorate of naturopathic medicine. I'm like, yeah, I'm the same
So impressive,
person. I'm
man.
like,
So impressive. Yeah.
oh, thank you. I'm like, well, I'm not the same person. And I think I was trying to be
Mm.
humble, but in many ways I wasn't humble. So I want to make
Mm.
sure that's clear, audience. I wasn't all humble 100% for
Mm.
sure. Absolutely not. And but what I was doing was denying that I had transcended my younger self, my that person, because
Yeah.
I've had much more experience. I had a much more expansive
Mhm.
view of the world. And so once I began to just acknowledge that difference,
Mhm.
I think I am able to be of service to others more so.
Mhm.
Because if I'm denying that difference and then trying to be of service, there's confusion to the person that who is interested in what it is that I have to share, or if I'm just trying to share something, there's confusion in them. They're like, well, you're not fully embracing being at 1,000 feet on the mountain.
Yeah.
You're trying to pretend that you're still at ground zero, but you're not in this
Mhm.
moment. I have that 1,000 foot awareness. Doesn't mean I don't have 2,000 foot awareness, but I have
True.
1,000 foot awareness. Being able
Mhm.
to accept that, and then also being at that place and be like, well, I don't have that 2,000 feet awareness. I need to have a humility, but I
Mm.
also need to acknowledge that I am at 1,000 feet,
Yep.
and I know the process of getting there. At least through my experience. Maybe from my experience, I can help facilitate someone else to get to 1,000 feet at least. At least be on the journey. For me, a lot of this is like, no, I have not arrived where quote unquote I would want to be. I'm with you.
Sure.
I want to be the best version of myself. I just want to be as good as I could be. I can be. That's my desire in life.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I haven't arrived. I don't know. I will never arrive at the end destination. Yeah, when I'm dead. Um, but before then, I'm constantly moving up in this direction.
Mhm.
Now, how can I be of service as I move up, as I continue to move in this direction? I'm never satisfied. You will never hear me say I'm enlightened.
Mhm.
There was someone asking me a question, a friend of mine, and he knows I've been practicing yoga for a while, and he's asking me about some kind of awakening experiences.
Mm.
I'm like, or awakening, or being awakened. Those in this podcast, I've said that can be overrated sometimes. Because sometimes you can have an awakening experience. It's like a helicopter dropping you off at 2,000 feet, but you're
Mhm.
going to have to go back down. You just had
Yeah.
that nice view. You just or they didn't even drop you off. You got on the helicopter and
You saw it from high. Yeah.
yeah, you landed there, but you couldn't get off the helicopter. You have this awakening. You have this awareness, like, oh wow, there's more to the world than I thought.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
now your helicopter going to take you back down,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
now now how do you actualize that perspective, that view? You have to do the hard work of going through that. And so
Yeah. You have to
when
integrate those
you
experiences
got to
into your life.
integrate those experiences, and then be liberated enough to
Mhm.
settle in at that other that viewpoint of that perspective,
Mhm.
and then and so integrating it and actualizing it in your life. There's a whole
Mhm.
lot to this than just awakening. And for me, I'm going to continue to awaken. Awakening will never end. There's spiritual awakenings, and I think that you have certain levels of depths of spiritual awakening. And once you have that awakening, you realize there's more to awaken.
Yep.
Because with
Yeah.
deep spiritual awakening, you realize that hell, I need to grow up. I need to awaken more emotionally. I need to awaken more in my social relationships, all my interpersonal intelligence. There's so many different spaces for us to awaken, to have uh, enlightened awareness about something. about being a human being that we're never going to fully arrive. And
Mhm.
when we make claims about being to have fully arrived somewhere, take it with a grain of salt, and acknowledging that with humility, and also acknowledging where the places that you have arrived.
Yep.
I have arrived in certain places that I can be of service to others who have not. That doesn't mean that I haven't don't have a lot more to grow. There's a
Yep.
lot more to grow. And for me, that makes it beautiful. Life is even more beautiful when you just accept all of that.
Yep.
Yeah, I've grown and I have a whole lot more to grow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful to me. That's a beautiful life.
Oh man. Um, I got at least one more analogy I think I could squeeze in here.
Mm.
That I used to discuss progressing artistically as, while doing the art, you have to be full of confidence, right? Or it shows. Like if you're hesitant while drawing a line, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
look straight. It's going to have wiggles in it. So you got to be confident while you're doing it. But then I thought the way to continue growing was to like berate yourself and see how much you could have done better, the ways in which you could have improved. And I was actually talking to our friend Jay that he asked me years ago, and I've continued to think about this. He said, what if you tried loving yourself into growth instead of hating yourself into growth?
Yeah.
Right? And oh man, that has stuck with me so much. And what I've kind of realized, because that's much easier said than done, but what I kind of came to is that to acknowledge that my past self was doing the best that they could. And I'm going to continue to try to build on what they did. I don't need to berate that past version of myself. They were trying their best. Why would I hate on them for that? I wouldn't hate on anybody else that was trying their best. Why me? So the idea that you spoke of humility, it sounds like, to me, I don't think this is everybody's definition of humility, but this is my own. Is humility is seeing the world as it is and seeing yourself as you are.
That's
It
it.
is, yeah, it's not somehow thinking less of yourself. That's just, that's lies, that's false humility.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of actually being humble, are you not going to tell people that you have the degrees that you have? You earned them. That's a beautiful thing. You put in the effort. You became a different version of yourself having gone through those trials and tribulations. It would be a mistake to not acknowledge that you are who you are, because now you can help people to get where you are. If
Mm-hmm.
you're constantly saying you're somewhere else, how in the world could you help somebody to be where you are? That's like being lost on the mountain. You're not going to be able to tell somebody how to get there because you're not even acknowledging where you are. And it's going to give people a lot of confusing directions. So saying, this is where I am. Let me be a beacon in this way while I continue to hike up the mountain.
Mm.
Continue putting one foot in front of the other and giving instruction in every way that I can. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. I love it. You said that with such clarity. I think this is why it's beautiful to
Mm.
have conversations, because the way that you just worded that really cleared up what I was stumbling trying to say.
Mm.
Um, and I think the beautiful part of a dance and a conversation is
Seriously.
this this the way that you summarize that, the way that you put that
Mm.
and worded that. I'm completely embracing what you just said, and reflecting on that. I'm like, yes, exactly. Yeah, accepting the world as it really is, and yeah,
Mm.
being mindful of false humility, even if you have good intentions behind it. And
For
I've been
sure.
guilty of that,
Oh, yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think that they're a part of is that fear of, because I really can't stand people who are arrogant, who lack humility. It really bothers me, and I think there's a part of me that's just like, I don't want to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
But in the process of not wanting to be that way, you end up, yeah, presenting a false sense of humility, and there's all kinds of problems associated with that. So thank you for that reflection and the way that you brought that into
Mm.
how you phrase that. How you put that together? That's going to be something for me to reflect on. We're
Oh,
near the end here. And
I appreciate you so much.
yeah, this has been great, man. Like you said, we can continue for hours, and I think we will.
Oh, we will. Yeah, this
And
conversation isn't going to end. Yeah.
yeah, just the beginning, and I think that's just lovely. And I think the audience gets to, had the opportunity to vicariously have this conversation with us. I hope you, audience, continue this conversation as well.
Mhm.
We're all reflections of each other, our greater selves, spirit, and this conversation and the conversation that you go out and have, audience, the conversation that Bryan and we're going to go out and have. It's just a continuation of this one, and I'm just grateful for it. Any final words you have for the audience before we sign off?
Oh, man, I feel like my only hope is that people find passion and purpose in whatever they do. So pursue your passions fully with your whole heart and appreciate and be grateful for the people that you get to be lucky enough to do it with. That's
Mm-hmm.
all. Yeah.
Beautiful, man. I love it. This is so rich. Oh, I want to keep going, but I think I have to go. I have another appointment too, and I really appreciate you, my brother. I'm so happy that our paths have crossed, and I feel like I've made have another brother, and
Absolutely.
to continue this journey, this what's the word I'm looking for? This some oftentimes unforgiving journey of life. It's good to have people in your life to support you along that path, and I feel like you are one of those people for me, and I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you right back. Honored we met.
Thank you so much for tuning into the show. I hope this conversation has inspired you to reflect on your own views of the good life. If you enjoyed the show and want to hear more inspiring and thought-provoking conversations, please follow, write a review, and rate us on your favorite podcast app. If you are tuning in on YouTube, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support is very much appreciated.